Welcome to Hope for Your Pelvic Floor, the podcast where we challenge the limits placed on women's bodies and lives. And I'm Claire Sparrow. I believe that when we reclaim our pelvic health, we reclaim our power. This is your space for optimism, possibility, and practical steps to move from feeling helpless to hopeful. Each week, we'll break down the myths, share tangible tools, and have real conversations about how you can strengthen not just your body, but your confidence and your future. Because you're not meant to settle, you're meant to thrive. So, if you're ready to take the ownership of your health, your choices, and your life, let's get started. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing a sort of personal story, one that involves me in Scotland's coldest waters, menopause, and all the surprising lessons that I've learned about showing up for myself. And we'll talk about how fear so often holds women back. It was certainly holding me back in lots of different ways from actually moving, whatever that means to you, moving forward in your life, moving your body, and why reclaiming that connection to your body might just be the most powerful thing you can do for your pelvic floor. Because obviously, that's what we're really here for. More control, more awareness, more power from our pelvic floor. So whether you're facing menopause like I am, or your pelvic floor symptoms, or just needing a nudge to move your body a little bit more and move forwards as a woman in life, this episode is definitely going to be for you. So, swimming in cold water. I mean, even as I say it out loud, I feel like I'm bonkers. And am I even talking about me? Because I don't even like to be cold. So the idea that, that everybody that's close to me knows for sure that I am like the layering queen. I like layers of clothes. Always, ever since I was a young dancer, I would always have multiple layers on. I'd have a scarf, I'd have like trousers over leggings. And even to this day, I still like to layer up and to be warm. So the idea of going from comfort and coziness and warmth, and in Scotland we call it coorie, where you coorie in, you've got your candles on, you've got warm, hearty food, you've got the warmth of a blanket. Like, to go from that to cold water just seems so almost out of character and extraordinary. But I was really feeling the despair actually of menopause symptoms, and feeling like I didn't have control over what was going on in my body, the changes that were happening in my body, and the mental health aspect of it, that feeling of fear and anxiety and worrying about things all the time. And I needed to do something that gave me some kind of control back and some sort of just ownership again at this strange time. I think I'd been so um, just so confident and comfortable in my body for my whole life. You know, my body was there for me, and I, with the exception of the experiences that I went through with childbirth and postnatal and those changes, I still felt like I had some kind of capacity of control and tools. And then menopause has just been a whole different ballgame. And I'm really speaking from my own experience, and I'm still in it. And what I needed was something that could get me out of this mindset and out of the kind of quagmire feeling that I was in, and to do something that was quite out there, and something that was different from my normals, because my normals weren't serving me in the same way anymore. So I decided we were on holiday on the Isle of Arran, and granted, it was the summertime, and the water's still cold there in the summertime, but it wasn't as bad as it might have been. And my lovely, patient, tolerant, incredible husband Scott came with me to a quiet, kind of beachy area where I could safely swim near the edge, just doing a little bit of swimming. And the sun was setting because it was late on in the day. There wasn't anybody else but him and our dog there. And it was so peaceful and so freeing to be in the water with nobody else there. There was no distractions, just me, my breath, keeping control of my breath, and just gliding, just swimming calmly up and down. And I'm not a confident swimmer, and grew up with a lot of fear, honestly, around swimming. My amazing cousins used to swim like freaking fish. They would be under the water, and I couldn't understand how they could be under the water and swimming and surviving, and it was all okay. And I would literally be sat on the edge of the pool crying with fear of going in the water. So to be, as an adult, just in that water with the only swimming stroke that I can do, my granny taught me, bless her. She taught me how to do breaststroke. She couldn't even swim herself, but she taught me because she knew how important it was for me to get over that initial fear and to have the ability to swim, which is really important. So I'm just there, just off the Isle of Arran, just having my little swim. And it wasn't just that moment of being in the water and moving freely and being supported by the water. It was the sensation when I got out of the water that was so incredibly empowering, for want of a better word, because I did it. I conquered something, the fear, my breath, the cold, the distractions of life. I could just focus on that one thing. And honestly, the buzz and rush of that was amazing. And that was my first kind of real experience of the cold water swimming. And it was the summer, and I did it what they call in cold water swimming. I did it skins, where I just literally wore my bathing suit, no neoprene or anything like that. It was really amazing. That was the beginning of that experience. And then I went up to the north of Scotland. So there's a big difference between lovely sunny summer's day on Arran to being in the most northernly outdoor tidal swimming pool in mainland UK, in Scotland for sure. It's the most amazing tidal swimming pool. It's in Wick. It's called the North Baths. And I thought I had this because I had done the swimming on Arran. I'd done it a few times after that time. So I thought, yeah, I got this. Oh my gosh, I was so deluded because there's a really big difference, really, really big difference. I went to swim and I met the most incredible woman. So it was early morning. It was still summer. This was still a summertime swim, but I'm not going to lie, it was bitterly cold in comparison to Arran. And I met a group of women who do it regularly, and this amazing group of women started up doing this in lockdown, I believe, and they've kept going. And they don't just swim in this particular spot, but for me, it felt great because it was literally a swimming pool. You could do laps, so felt safer somehow than just being in the open sea. So I thought, this is a great place to go and really, really explore this a bit more. And so as I tentatively took my first steps in, I was just so supported by the community of women who they may have normally just gone in and swum, but they stood with me and talked with me and went slow with me at the pace that I needed to go in as I carefully took those next steps into my cold water swimming journey. They gave me such great advice around the gloves and the booties and the importance of those, and hot water bottles and all of the things that I didn't know. They brought that community sharing, nurturing, women helping women spirit to my experience of cold water swimming. And that is going to be, I think, 2 years, maybe more, since I really got into it. And I honestly can't imagine not cold water swimming now, not having that experience of abandoning the world, taking back control of my body, focusing on something that's really just for me. It's become such a ritual and almost meditative, especially when I go to North Baths, because you just swim your lengths and the movement warms you up. You're getting incredible exercise. And yes, I'm still only doing breaststroke and I'm okay with that. I do lots of other movement in my life that balances that out. So I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that, because the feeling of being in the sea is just so freeing and reminds me every time that I've overcome the fear of the cold, the fear of swimming, the fear of the water, the fears around menopause and the lack of control. And that's so hugely important. And I'm not suggesting for a second that everybody all goes out and takes up cold water swimming. This is what's worked for me. And that's why I wanted to share, is the recognition of needing something to eliminate the fear and take back control, and also to just get my body moving without fear. So I built up a routine of the swimming and all of the elements that are so important about taking back control through menopause. That's what it's really been for me, taking back control. And I want to lean in a little bit now to the movement element of it. And, I'm not a confident swimmer and I'm doing just my breaststroke, but I'm moving my whole entire body to do that. And I think that when it comes to fear, and I've expressed, some of my fears, what I recognize is that not just from the women that I've worked with, but the women that have reached out to me and the women that my master teachers work with. And right now I've got a group of mentees that I'm working with all over the world, and they're bringing their case studies. And my goodness me, every case study, it just hits me so deeply in the heart, because every woman is shrouded in fear. Every single one, including those mentees, because we are they're recognizing the gravity, the weight of any kind of pelvic floor dysfunction on a woman's life. The fear that surrounds them is massive. And as a teacher, as someone who's supporting a woman through that, you're inhabiting some of that fear as well, because you want to do the right thing. They want to do the right thing. And there's a recognition that there are some movements that sometimes can be unhelpful, but on the whole, movement heals. Joseph Pilates said it, movement heals. We also work with this really amazing Eric Dalton quote, motion is lotion. Movement literally does create the fluids in our bodies that help us to heal. I've talked about this in other episodes, and honestly, we do need to move more. And what we see is, and I know you're probably, if you're listening, you probably fall into this category, that the fear of making your symptoms worse or things worse for you prevents you from moving. Just even the fear in your body creates restriction, it creates more tension, it inhibits your pelvic floor's capacity from movement, from healing, from being responsive and spontaneous. And so we're in this cycle where actually moving less creates more symptom, creates more stress, creates more fear, and we get into that repetitive cycle. So all of movement in our life counts as potential movement to help to restore your pelvic health, your pelvic floor function. And I'd really love to reframe it a little bit in this episode to help you to understand that even the smallest, lightest amount of movement can help to retrain that cycle of fear, stress, tension, fear, stress, tension. If we can just introduce some small wins, some small empowerment into your life, like I do with my swimming. I also walk our dog a lot, and just walking as an integrated part of my life is a really important and empowering movement, because I know for many of you, and so many women have told me that walking is something that, it's very basic, it's fundamental, and we enjoy it, but it's actually feeling limited by the fear of, or by the symptoms that occur. And you know, like I said, I'm not suggesting that you take up wild swimming. Maybe you will, and I'll be happy to give you my top tips. But I just wanted to share with you how important movement is, whatever that is for you. And maybe it's a walk, or it's a dance party in the kitchen, or playing tennis with the kids or grandkids, because all movement really, really counts. I promise you, it counts. So let's think a little bit about what you could specifically do to help you. Movement is medicine. We're getting to see that more and more in the mainstream. There's so many podcasts and YouTubers and Instagrammers who are really talking more openly now. We understand more about movement being medicine, and also that the lack of movement, the fear and the reduced movement actually disconnects you from your body. It creates that tension, and the tension prevents healing. So here we go. Let's have a few suggestions of what you might be able to do. And you're going to laugh, because honestly, I think I probably suggest this every episode, that actually it begins with breath. Okay. Many of us, when we're in that state of fear, we hold our breath. We shorten our breath. And it's so important that we allow the breath to move. In the whole body pelvic health method, I teach 5 ways that breathing really impacts our pelvic health. I've been teaching the mentees this exact skill to open up and see the different ways that breath influences pelvic health and how movement influences breath. So really, really simply, to help you to start to reduce the stress, to help stimulate the vagus nerve, to help you to expand the energy throughout your whole body and help that healing process, it just begins with that full exhale. And I know that if you haven't listened, go back and listen to previous episodes where I talk about the importance of the exhale, because we're stuck in the stressy inhale. And then we go and we do a fitness class, or we do Pilates, or we do some breath work, and we begin with the inhale, we focus on where we're already stuck. So what I'd love you to do is go to the exhale and let your inhale be an expansive reflex, and you will feel so much movement into your pelvis, into your diaphragm and pelvic diaphragm from just simply that. And that will allow the freedom of movement to begin. And then a really simple way is, I was talking about walking, is just to extend your stride. I love to, when I first start walking, to kind of observe my gait. And I would suggest you do the same. Like, how long are your strides? Often we shorten our strides when we've got some fear in the pelvis. If you could lengthen them out, it will make the world of difference. Also noticing, does it feel even one side and the other, or do you feel like you stride out longer with one side over the other? What do you need to do to balance that out? Often, if there's some restriction from scar tissue in your pelvis, that will have a big impact on the way, the motion through the two halves of your pelvis and your stride as a result of that. So thinking about your breath first will help to release some of that tension, and then extending your stride on the restricted side of your pelvis will be huge. And then a third kind of fun one is like a kitchen dance party. It doesn't have to be in the kitchen, it can be anywhere, but it's a bit more specific than just that. I want you to pick a bit of music, your favorite kind of bit of music that gives you a little boost. And if you need some examples of some upbeat, empowering music, if you go on to Spotify, we have actually got a playlist of music to help your pelvic health. It was created by lots of the members and the members of the Whole Body Pelvic Health membership and the teachers, and we all created this really empowering playlist. So it's the Whole Body Pelvic Health playlist, and I guess I can put a link below as well. Picking a bit of music that's motivating, and then tune in to the rhythm of that piece of music, and then pick a bit of your body, any area of your body. It could be your shoulders, it could be your spine, maybe even your pelvis, and just start moving it to the rhythm of that music. And the more you do this, the more free you'll become, and the more you'll be able to notice if, for example, you choose your shoulders. Even as I sit here and move my shoulders, I can't move my shoulders without the rest of my body following suit. It will help you to understand why I teach a whole body pelvic health method and not just a pelvic health method, because everything is connected and moving through your pelvis. Even your head and shoulders are influencing and moving through your pelvis. And it's going to help you to feel so much more freedom and control, and eliminate some of that fear of movement. So those are my three kind of tips. And if you do want to try cold water swimming, you could make that the fourth suggestion, to get yourself in the water, override the fears that we have, because it's so limiting when we are afraid of our body, because that's what we're talking about, feeling afraid in that way. It really does limit your ability to take control, to restore, to bring back the function of your pelvic floor. So whatever you choose to do, move more. Movement is about healing, not performance or perfection. And I feel so often we get stuck in there's a right way of doing something and a wrong way, or a right movement and a wrong movement. Your body's designed to move. Just move it, relax and just move it. And once we start to override that fear, you will feel so much better. You will feel what is really possible for your pelvic health. And it is so much more than where you are right now. Honestly, I cannot encourage you enough, because when we are stuck in that fear cycle, it is it is hard. It is hard. And that's why I'm here. It's hard to get out of that. And once you do, it is magnificent. So, if you want to know a little bit more about why the whole body pelvic health method, and even try it out for yourself, you know that the whole body pelvic health membership has a free 7-day trial. So, if you're not already a member, you can go ahead and join for free for 7 days, see what it's all about. You will see how much is in there. We even include help on building the habit of integrating pelvic health into your everyday life. So it's kind of like, really, I've gone out to create something that has everything in it you need to conquer this. So thank you so much for joining me today in this episode. If we sparked something in you, I'd love you to take one small brave step. Maybe it's going for a walk, or joining a class, or maybe just taking those deep breaths and knowing you're not alone. And if you're ready to explore this a bit further with me, you can come and join the membership, where we'll move, learn, and heal together. And of course, if this resonated, please, 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 if you could share it with a friend who needs to hear that it's never too late to start moving again. So until next time, take care of yourself, and I will see you in our next episode. Bye for now.